The Great Pyramids of ancient Egypt, whether viewed from a geographical distance of a few miles or a temporal distance of a few thousand years, form an enduring monument to human imagination and endeavor. Set in a seemingly infinite expanse of desert, the peaks of the pyramids soar into the heavens. Stone upon stone upon stone, the pyramids are surrounded by sand, itself the product of stone that has been abraded by water and shifted by wind. The Mexican poet Octavio Paz describes this process in his poem titled Wind, Water, Stone. An essayist, translator, and diplomat, as well as a poet, Paz was, by any standard, one of the leading intellectuals of the 20th century. Awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1990, Paz published 8 volumes of poetry, 6 collections of essays on art, literature, philosophy, and politics, and book-length studies of the French anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss and the French painter and sculptor Marcel Duchamp. Paz served as Mexico's ambassador to India for 6 years, and he taught at Cambridge University, the University of Texas, and Harvard. In his poem, Wind, Water, Stone, Paz writes, "Water hollows stone, wind scatters water, stone stops the wind. Water, wind, stone. Wind carves stone, stone's a cup of water, water escapes and is wind. Stone, wind, water. Wind sings in its whirling, water murmurs going by, unmoving stone keeps still. Wind, water, stone. Each is another and no other, crossing and vanishing through their empty names, water, stone, wind." Wind, water, stone. Wind carves stone, water hollows stone. Interacting over centuries of centuries and millennia of millennia, wind, water, and stone interact to create sand. Journalist Vince Beiser, in his 2018 book, The World in a Grain, The Story of Sand and How It Transforms Civilization, says that sand lies deep in our cultural consciousness. It suffuses our language. We draw lines in it, build castles in it, hide our heads in it. Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives, intone the opening credits of a classic American soap opera. Poet William Blake encouraged us to see a world in a grain of sand. The poet Percy Shelley reminded us that even the mightiest of kings end up dead and forgotten, while all around them only the lone and level sands stretch far away. Sand is both minuscule and infinite, Beiser says, a means of measurement and a substance beyond measuring. Last month, I was part of a small group of people who visited sites that remained from ancient Egypt, including the pyramids in Giza. They are a truly remarkable sight, both monumental and elemental. The Great Pyramid of Giza, which was built over a span of 2 decades for the 4th dynasty pharaoh Khufu, contains more than 2.3 million blocks of stone. Granite to build the pyramid, and limestone to clad it and make it beautiful. The blocks of stone in the pyramid average 2.5 tons each, but some blocks weigh up to 15 tons. They were transported to the site outside Cairo from quarries as far away as Aswan, which is more than 500 miles away. How did the ancient engineers and laborers transport these massive blocks of stone nearly 5,000 years ago? During the flood season, when the Nile River expanded inland far enough to reach the quarries, the blocks of stone were loaded onto barges and sailed up the Nile. Then, using logs as rollers, the blocks of stone were dragged up sand ramps to whatever level of the pyramid was currently being built. The Great Pyramid of Giza is considered by many scholars to be the greatest feat of engineering in the ancient world. Given the disparity in both materials and technology between the ancient world and today, one could reasonably argue that the Great Pyramid is one of the greatest feats of engineering in human history. 4 millennia or so later, what remains of their collective endeavors is stone and sand. Compared to the fleeting lives of both the workers and the pharaohs, the stones of the pyramids and the sands of the desert seem relatively eternal. For the ancient Egyptians, eternity was the goal. The pyramids were not only a final resting place for the pharaohs at the end of this life, they were also stepping stones for the pharaohs into the next life. The pharaohs were typically buried with everything they would need for luxurious living in the next world, including servants, slain servants in the early days of the pyramids, then statues of servants in later years. The interior walls of the burial chambers were lavishly illustrated with scenes that depicted both the pharaohs' triumphs in this life and their aspirations for the next life. When you look at a pyramid, in other words, you can see it as a place of final defeat, a place of death. But you can also see it as a place of intriguing possibility, a place of potential new life. The same principle holds true when you're looking at sand. In his book on the topic, Vince Beiser claims that sand is the most important solid substance on Earth and the literal foundation of modern civilization. Given that sand is the main ingredient in concrete, he says, sand is the main material modern cities are made of. It is to cities what bread is to flour, what cells are to our bodies, the invisible but fundamental ingredient that makes up the bulk of the built environment in which we live. Take a glance out the window, he says. All those other buildings you see are also made of sand. So is the glass in that window. So are the miles of asphalt roads that connect all those buildings. So are the silicone chips that are the brain of your laptop and your smartphone. We humans bind together countless trillions of grains of sand to build towering structures, and we break apart the molecules of individual grains to make tiny computer chips. So what do you see when you look at a desert? Do you see the final resting place of rocks? The ultimate achievement of wind, water, and stone? Or do you see the physical substrate of life as we know it? The substance that has made possible the built environments of human civilization? Are you able to see only what's present? Or are you also able to imagine what might be possible? Especially on this weekend when we celebrate Earth Day, we desperately need to cultivate our ability to see beyond what's present and imagine what's possible. The achievements of human civilization over the past 5,000 years or so, and especially over the past 500 years or so, have been truly remarkable and also profoundly devastating to life on planet Earth. Humanity seems hell-bent, both morally and cosmologically. Everything seems broken. The Grammy Award-winning contemporary American composer Eric Whitacre's composition Cloudburst, which Alejandro Trent and the All Souls Choir and percussionists performed magnificently as our offertory this morning, is based on a poem by Octavio Paz titled The Broken Water Jug. The poem laments that the earth has become dry and burned. Why is there no water? Paz asks. Only blood, only dust. The answer, as the title of Whitacre's composition indicates, comes in the form of a cloudburst. Paz writes, "The rain awakens. We must sleep with open eyes. We must dream with our hands. We must dream dreams of active rivers searching for their cause, dreams of the sun dreaming of its worlds. We must dream aloud. We must sing till the song casts roots, trunks, branches, birds, stars. We must unearth the lost word and remember what the blood, the tides, the earth, and the body say, and return to the point of departure." Sometimes in our lives, we find ourselves in situations where everything seems broken. The water has leaked out of the water jug. Things have become dry and burned. There seems to be only blood and dust everywhere we look. In these situations, Paz says, we need to dream. Dream with our eyes and our hands. Dream of falling rain and flowing rivers. We need to sing. Sing until our song gives us strength to build a new and living world. Sing until plants flourish once again and birds fly and stars appear. We need to remember. Remember the rhythm that suffuses the pulse of life in our bodies and the tides of life on planet Earth. Most of all, we need to return. Return to the point of departure. Only as we acknowledge our source can we fully comprehend our destiny. We are stewards of the gift of life, not masters of it. We did not choose life. Life chose us. With this awareness, we find ourselves better able to continue the Herculean labor of working to save this extraordinarily beautiful and life-giving planet we call home. As the British botanist Micah McCarthy points out in his book, The Moth Snowstorm, Nature and Joy, the efforts to defend and protect the natural world based on what's sensible and responsible haven't been successful, nor have efforts based on what's in our economic self-interest. It's time for another way, McCarthy says, something different entirely. We should offer up what it means to our spirits, the love of it. We should offer up its joy. After all, he goes on to say, human beings have been sitting in towns and cities staring into computer screens for only a single generation. We've been working in neon-lit offices for only 3 or 4 generations. But before that, we were farmers for 500 generations. And before that, we were hunter-gatherers for perhaps 50,000 or more generations. We lived with the natural world and evolved as part of it. That legacy can't easily be done away with, but we do need to reconnect to the natural world. We do so, McCarthy says, through experience of it. He says, I think deep down the feeling is that we are astonished to be in a world that contains such a phenomenon. The nightingale singing in darkness, say. And somehow the astonishment then reaches out beyond the sense of our place in the world, merely to the fact that we exist at all. Indeed, we exist at the largesse of this astonishingly beautiful and awe-inspiring planet we call home. In gratitude for all that has been given to us, our responsibility is to do all we can to nourish and sustain the natural world that makes our lives possible and even sometimes wonderful. In his poem titled Letter of Testimony, Octavio Paz writes, love, reconciliation with the great all, and with the others, the small and endless all. Perhaps to love is to learn to walk through this world, to learn to be silent, to learn to see. On this Earth Day weekend, my hope and my prayer is that we can return once more to the point of departure, to a feeling of deep connection to others and to the endless all, a feeling of love for the gift of life. Only in silent amazement do we learn to see. Only in love do we learn to walk through this world. Amen. I love you. May God bless us all.